Protests in Ukraine this Thursday over the dismissal of the Defense Minister Mykhailo Fedorov. The dispute between the reformer and Kyiv's top general spilled into the open during the president's second overhaul of his wartime cabinet in a year. Volodymyr Zelensky's reshuffle has fueled public anger over his exclusion of Fedorov, a 35-year-old tech expert who's aimed to reshape Kyiv's outmanned army into a more efficient fighting force to take on Russia. Hundreds of people then taken to the streets in the capital Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities to demand he be reappointed. And a senior commander of Kyiv's air war has resigned in protest. While the success has been announced, Yevgeny Kamara, the acting head of Ukraine's security service, his SBU is behind several long-range strikes on Russian territory, and his task is to continue the reforms of Ukraine's defense sector. Let's get Gulliver Cragg, our Ukraine correspondent, for more on this story. Gulliver, tell us about the anger regarding this change.
Well, people are angry fundamentally because Mykhailo Fedorov is extremely popular. He was perhaps the only high-profile minister in this outgoing government. He's young, he's tech-savvy, he has never been accused of corruption, he's seen as a reformer, and also he surfed a wave to some extent of the improvement in the fortunes of the Ukrainian military over the last few months. They've started taking back a bit more territory, they've been isolating Crimea, they've been doing more and more long-range strikes, as we've been hearing. Some of that is to his credit because he managed to get Starlink cut off for the Russians, which was a crucial improvement for the Ukrainian forces on the front lines. And he's been credited with other reforms already bearing fruit. It's possible, that things were starting to go badly for the Russians for other reasons, and reforms that were on their way in the Ukrainian armed forces before Mykhailo Fedorov took over were also beginning to bear fruit. But he was certainly seen as being extremely dynamic. And the way that this is being done with Volodymyr Zelensky, once again, apparently firing somebody simply because he's got too popular, or that's one of the interpretations that is being put on this. And this conflict between Mykhailo Fedorov and Alexander Syrsky is, in the eyes of Ukrainian public opinion, not something that the president should be hesitating about when wondering who to choose. Mykhailo Fedorov is young, dynamic, comes from Volodymyr Zelensky's original team. He's actually the only member of Volodymyr Zelensky's original team and in the first government that he created in 2019, who's still in the government, or at least was until a couple of days ago. And so people are appalled that the president appears to be siding with Alexander Syrsky, who is going to be 61 in a few days. He's seen as old guard Soviet-style general, who, although he chalked up some important, crucial victories for Ukraine, and Mykhailo Fedorov acknowledged this in his press conference today in 2022, nevertheless old-fashioned and not keeping up with the rapidly modernizing way that wars are fought today. Mykhailo Fedorov did say today that he doesn't think that Volodymyr Zelensky has made his final choice to back Alexander Syrsky and to side with him, leaving open the idea that maybe this decision could be reversed. But with this nomination of Yevgeny Kamara that came we heard about it a couple of hours ago, it doesn't look like, for the moment, Volodymyr Zelensky is thinking of doing that, but the parliament yet has to confirm Yevgeny Kamara into the post, and apparently they're going to go on vacation now for a few weeks, perhaps hoping that the protests die down before finalising the decision.
Looking at this from the outside, Gulliver, it seems rather strange. One would hope that people would be more focused on the task of getting the war won and progressing that way. Is this protest in any way a sign that people are starting to doubt Zelensky?
I think it's going to contribute to people doubting Zelensky, certainly. I mean, the positions that you've been reading online, on social media, hearing on the radio from experts, other politicians and commentators unanimously seem to be saying that this is a very, very bad decision, that Zelensky is making a big mistake here. Mykhailo Fedorov, who is a general who was commander of ground forces until he was demoted sometime last year, but he still holds an important position in the army. He's very popular and young. He has sided with Mykhailo Fedorov, and I think a lot of people think that Mykhailo Fedorov should be named commander-in-chief of the armed forces. I think that there is a lot of pressure and a lot of people who've got alternative ideas about what Volodymyr Zelensky should be doing here. And I think that if he doesn't listen to them, it's quite possible that these people will gather together and form some kind of organized political opposition. Though, of course, elections can't currently be held in Ukraine, and the majority of Ukrainians agree with that and don't want elections to be held. So it's hard to see exactly what political route there is for people to take power. But as we saw last year with the protests against the Zelensky government's attempts to hobble Ukraine's anti-corruption institutions, the executive is capable of responding to street protests and making reforms in terms of changing the people that they put into key positions. So it will be very, very interesting to follow how this plays out. Just an hour or so ago, I was in another regional capital, Khmelnytsky, a small regional capital, but there were protests there as well. There have been protests in really a lot of towns, and young people there who were gathering to protest again said that the nomination of Yevhen Kamara absolutely did not satisfy them. And it's also very hard for Volodymyr Zelensky to justify. He hasn't really issued a coherent explanation as to why he's doing this.
Gulliver, as always, thank you very much indeed. Gulliver Cragg, our Ukraine correspondent. Thank you.